Welcome to From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Here you'll go from making ends meet behind a keyboard to living in true freedom by using real estate well. Never having to work a full-time job, report to a manager, or give your adult life to a corporation that probably doesn't care about you. We will give you everything you need for your journey: techniques, principles, real-world experience, and application, filtered through 5 key power principles from my book, People Power, Other People's Money, How to Win, Enjoy, and Reserve. Get ready to take notes. Let's jump into From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Welcome back to From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. I'm Ivan, and I have a great guest here today, Chris Soignier. Did I say that right, the last name?
Close enough, Soignier, but
So it's Soignier.
very close.
That's fancy. So he has over 20 years of corporate finance experience working primarily for Dell. He owned 4 properties by the time he was gleefully fired from there because he was done with corporate America. Currently, he has 3,200 agents under revenue share as associate broker at eXp Realty. He's invested in over 40 multifamily syndications, which amounts to being a part of over 10,000 doors. He's leveraged his own property equity, 401k, and savings to scale up after leaving his job. He makes more in his sleep than working for anybody else, which I'm sure a lot of people listening want to be able to relate to. And lastly, he's currently a partner in 19 multifamily syndications and also oil and gas deals. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you. I've been happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm happy you're here too. Would you like to expand on any of those, or maybe perhaps on the introduction in general?
I think you got it down pretty good, except for after Dell, there was, I wasn't fired from there. I went to a couple of other different jobs, and
Okay.
my last one I was fired from, and that was the trigger that got me to make the leap to go into
Yeah.
self-employment and entrepreneurship, along with being very conveniently timed with finishing reading the cash flow quadrant pretty much
Yeah.
about the same day.
So isn't it funny how that worked out? Just the right book was the kind of trigger to get into action.
Yeah, yeah, at the time it didn't feel very good, but it was a blessing in disguise. One of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say get you into action because you already had like 4 properties, but by the time you left or whatever, was that particular one the one you got
Those
fired
are
from?
interest in I'd say interest in as a passive in the syndications. Yes.
Yeah. And by that time, luckily you had some experience too, so you could vet who you're also investing with too better. And so it's
Yeah.
awesome. I would love to hear more about your journey because I'm sure it was not a straight line like a lot of people think it may be.
No, absolutely not. So, I, when I'd moved to Dallas from Austin, I guess in 2013. And spent the last couple of years of my corporate career up here, and along the way I got interested in real estate and learned about how you can invest in apartments. Just an ordinary guy like me,
Mhm.
um, which I'd seen apartments before. I never thought that I could own a piece of those, but once I learned how you could do it, it's like, oh wow, this is a really good way to go. It sure beats, you know, investing in doing flips or single family rentals and all that. It's a lot more scalable and all that. So I
Yeah.
started doing that, especially as a full-time employee. It didn't take away much of my time. So I like that. Then once I left corporate America, I didn't have enough capital uh, in multifamily to pay the bills. And because it's a lot of it's a deferred gratification gain. You get some cash flow, but a lot of it comes at the back end when you sell it. And then back then, um, there was also good opportunities for refinancing.
Yeah.
Um, you get some cash, sometimes you get your entire cash back just from a cash out refi. And so I thought that I was going to have to do some single family strategies to make it work. So I found a good mentor to help me out and started learning about doing flips, doing seller financing, rentals, the whole gamut of
Mhm.
things like that. And then along the way, I actually was encouraging my wife once we were doing these flips to get a real estate license so she could sell my flips and to improve her margins. She wasn't really that interested, so I decided to get my license just to be my only client and sell my own flips
Hmm.
and everything. So, and it was very tough for the first couple of years. Not gonna sugarcoat it. You know, we took a step back in our lifestyle, and I had to do some really creative financing things to keep the lights on and keep the house and everything.
Yeah.
But you
What?
know, I just had a this unwavering belief that this was going to be the route to a better future.
Yeah.
So just grinded through it, and things turned out better than I ever would have dreamed of.
Yeah. I remember before we started, you mentioned you had a M3. So I'm guessing you had quite a sizable salary to cover that, probably 100 grand plus, right?
Yeah, I was very comfortable. Six-figure salary, great benefits and everything. So, you know,
Yeah.
was doing well before I got into real estate. And so then I had, after that, you know, I had a lot of residual expenses, no residual income, or,
Yeah.
you know, at first, not much of any income. So,
Hmm.
you know, just had to get over that hump and get the cash flow going and fill in the gaps with some financing while we're doing it. But that, you know, really motivated me to figure out and make it work.
Yeah. You mentioned you when you left your job, you had 4 properties. There's different trains of thought of how many doors you need to be able to leave your job. Do you have a rough idea? Like I've heard 40 is a good number to live comfortably. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, it really varies because it can be so volatile. And you know, as and I've done this strictly as a passive. Okay, so it's going to be totally different if you're an independent rental operator or a syndicator.
Yeah.
But for me, you know, somebody, and it also depends if you're doing a value play, a yield play, or a hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, as a starting off, I was doing value plays, which weren't really yielding much of anything. You know, maybe get 3% distributions, cash and cash at most. But then, like the second and third one I did, they pretty much doubled like in 18 months. So had a very good back end. And you know, those second and third ones, I'd borrowed 150K combined on a HELOC, 75 each, and you know, doubled that to 318 months. And so from there, I was able to just, you know, I think I probably did like four more after that. And
Yeah.
I was just trying to snowball it from there. And
Yeah.
the interest rates were so low in HELOC that it was like it was easy arbitrage.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things that make people run away from real estate or not take it seriously, that there's a whole lot of too good to be true type stories, but there's a reason for it. There's like the US has one of the strongest real estate markets in the world. It just keeps on climbing. And if you buy right, you're educated right, you could definitely double up your money in a short term period. Um,
Yes, it was it happened very quickly and beyond expectations.
mhm.
You know, now currently it's not quite as easy. There's some headwinds, but you know, I still
Yeah.
believe real estate is absolutely one of the best ways to build wealth in this country.
Yeah. It's the biggest outputter of millionaires. And yeah, real estate is cyclical, so that's something else to keep in mind. Not having the thought that, oh, it's all going to be perfect, all going to be great all the time. The other thing to keep in mind with value add properties, especially if not one is not well educated, is that the first 6 to 12 months, especially, is the highest amount of handling deferred maintenance, like roofs and leaks that were not handled by previous owners, tenant turnover. So that affects the cash flow too, which
Yep.
negatively impacts returns.
Yeah, anytime if you're getting into a value play, you know, you shouldn't be expecting cash flow right away anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great natural way to go into our 5 main sections. So people power, other people's money, winning, enjoying, and reserve. So people power, you mentioned one of the big ways you got into it more seriously was that you looked for a mentor. What was that journey like?
Well, it was, it was I had some good coaching in the multifamily space and everything that helped me greatly with vetting sponsors, reviewing the underwriting, make sure I was comfortable with it, and really trying to strategically build up my portfolio, diversifying across sponsors, markets, types of deals, etc. And I knew enough to know that that wasn't really what was going to help me so much on the single family side, of what I wanted to do. So I had a friend that actually he was a co-partner of mine in my first multifamily deal, and he was doing single family. He had hired a single family mentor he raved about. So I reached out and hired him as well. And then of course it's a full team. I mean, you got to get general contractors, realtors, lenders. I was doing private borrowing, so trying to find sources of private money and the whole gamut. And so you can't do this alone. You're probably not going to go very far if you do. So
Yeah.
it's really important, whether you're doing multifamily, single family, or another strategy, to assemble a great team to
Yeah.
help
What
you.
was your process for discerning that these were the right guys to hire as your coach or mentor?
Basically, it's just talking with them. First getting comfortable with them, that they're a good person you want to deal with, that you have a compatible style, they're honest, ethical, and to be honest, I misjudged some folks, especially contractors along the way. But references are good from other people,
Hmm.
and you just want to make sure that they're all complementary to your business and work together well.
Okay. If you had to think of one person that really was a game changer for you in the real estate world, who would that be and why?
One person is a game changer in the real estate world. I have to give kudos to when I top journals in my real estate brokerage that I attracted to my business is Connor Steinbrook. Guys, he's been an incredible leader in my organization, and he's really helped us build massively over time. So
Okay.
he's been amazing.
Could you explain how that kind of diversification of your real estate experience helped your investing side? Because some people don't necessarily want to be a licensee, or they're maybe on the fence of becoming getting their license. And so where did that come in, and how did it help your investing side?
Well, so first of all, it helps your investing side. You have, unfiltered access to the MLS. Okay, so you can see everything. And of course, before that, I was having agents, create searches for me and stuff like that. But just being able to go in and really look real time all the time was very helpful.
Hmm.
Also, it gets you around other agents who oftentimes have deals, so it increases your potential deal flow through that. It helps you learn how to comp out properties better, and just gives you a different perspective on the industry too.
Yeah,
So, and then of course, you can save, apply your commissions back into the deal, so it can help improve the economics of your deal flow.
yeah. Handle some things you wanted to handle to be able to increase rents. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I just got one of these, 1099 forms, and I made like 44,000 off my agent work last year. And I don't even remember exactly what I did. It was probably a handful of deals.
Yeah, and I like I said, I didn't even the only reason I did it, I was kind of resistant to becoming an agent because I'd heard a lot from other people about how you don't want to be an agent because it's going to tie your hands behind your back. You got all these additional obligations and responsibilities, and then at one point, a friend of mine who I respected a lot, he ended up getting his license. He was an investor and everything. And I asked him, like, you're not worried about this, you know, cramping your business or anything like that or hurting you? Because, well, the requirements, basically you got to be honest, ethical, transparent.
Hmm.
And if you're doing all those things anyway, if that's who you are, it shouldn't make anything. Obviously you got get a little bit more in terms of CYA, the things you got to get people to sign and all that. But
Hmm.
I thought, hey, that's the way I like to conduct business too, and in the way I expect everybody who does business with me to conduct themselves. So,
Yeah.
once you put it like that, it's like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, I think a big factor is also your broker. So somebody like me who has a lot of experience, I don't want to be with a broker that'll say, you missed a checkbox for this particular exhibit or this tiny little minute detail. So that would bring somebody like me to not be interested. But if you have a specific broker that just cares about the meat of it, like the signatures, the initials are in the right place, and all the important stuff is there, and I'm not being called every day about minutia, then that really makes a difference. And being able to like rationalize, okay, being an agent is good. It's good extra money. And then there's the education, like you mentioned. Like most people don't know what a fee simple title is, what sort of title clouds could happen. All these things you learn becoming a licensee, which is useful for your investing side too.
Yes, and that's a good point too, is because the keeping a license, especially in Texas, it has the most rigorous requirements in the country. You know, I had to get close to 200 hours to get licensed, and another almost 200 hours my first 2 years, and now it's down to 18 hours every 2 years. But it keeps us constantly being educated on what's changing in the law and the markets, contracts,
Hmm.
broker responsibility, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read that that is the most strict state for real estate. So that's good for you too, because it really limits the pool, right?
Well, you would think, but there's still a lot of us out here.
Okay.
Now, and really it was on the first 2 years I was getting it, and then the first 2 years that were tough. But after that, 18 hours per 2 years is a walk in the park.
Yeah. Um, I read it was some at some point in the past, like 900 hours, I think too. Maybe if you were applying through college.
That's 900 hours, I believe, to get your broker's license
Yeah.
if you don't have a college degree. So I do have BBA and an MBA, and so I bypassed a lot of that training. I
Oh,
think I'm
okay.
broker responsibility or something like that. But and then it was just a retake of the same test.
Oh,
You
that's
said
good.
5 points higher to pass.
Awesome. So we could move on because that was a good coverage of the people power section. So other people's money or resources. So this is also tied in a little bit to capital, raising capital, but I also, since you're a broker, would like you to extrapolate on the revenue share part you've been a part of for EXP Realty, because that might be useful for somebody, especially a new agent or new real estate person that wants to diversify through agent work too.
Okay, so as far as other people and resources, first
Yeah,
of all, the easy one, when I was actually starting in the single family investment, I did raise some private capital, and I was also a private lender. So um, you know, both were very important to building my real estate portfolio and income portfolio.
yeah,
That as far as on the EXP side, I'm a broker associate. You don't have to be a broker; any agent can do it. But we have an ability to build these virtual organizations that are basically un unconstricted by geography. So I built a team of 300,250 agents across the world. And every time they close a deal, I get a small cut of it, and EXP has no paid recruiters. It's all people like me. Anybody can do it that wants to. And instead of paying the recruiters, they pay us to spread the word and help the company grow. And it's been actually more lucrative than the real estate investing.
okay. Let's jump back to the first point. What was your process for taking on partners to raise capital?
Raise capital. So basically I was doing it for flips usually. And so I actually, again, a pattern you may see, I found a mentor who's a specialist at raising private capital. Everything, went to his events, and he actually kind of even did like a professional studio recording, um, kind of kind of a testimony for me and everything, helped me to do that. But I really started looking for people who oftentimes had a challenge, and a lot of times it's older folks, and they may not want the risk of the stock market, but they, putting their money in a bank like a CD or anything wasn't even keeping up with inflation.
Hmm.
So they're kind of like stuck in a really difficult position. So, I was reaching out and, hey, if I could pay you 8% on a very, relatively short-term basis, 6 to 12 months often. And if it's over collateralized, I would never borrow more than like 70% loan to value. Make it very safe. They're on the deed, and so I was able to find people that like doing that.
Okay.
You and then there were times when I had excess capital too, where I
Hmm.
lent to people myself.
Oh yeah. Especially with you being a part of these syndications, you're doing that very aggressively.
Oh, yes, now I wasn't lending to syndications. I didn't have that kind of capital. Those tend to be institutionalized lenders.
Hmm.
But in terms of other flippers and people like that
Oh
want to do
yeah.
it, doing it, yeah.
Yeah. But if you think about it, what you're doing, it's not exactly a loan, but you are putting money somewhere and expecting money back with interest or return. So in a way,
Yes.
it's sort of like a loan. That's kind of
It,
how.
it, yeah.
And with your research, your education, you're kind of staving off some risk by investing in that, as opposed to you got a guy down the street saying, "Hey, give me $100,000." You know.
Yes. And
Oh,
so, coming from a finance background, I'm very big in risk mitigation and, really trying to, it'll never be risk free, but really trying to manage your risk to where you're earning, double digit returns for something that's got a risk profile, hopefully more of a single digit
right.
type of thing. So
Yeah. All right. So we touched on that capital side. On the revenue share side for eXp Realty, what's your process of rate or taking on new agents to add to your revenue share?
so basically it's a combination of me and then the folks that are on my in my group. And what I do a lot of times is I'm really big on networking and meeting people in person, building rapport and everything. And there's a lot of agents out there that and a lot of different business models, and I can't help all of them. There's some probably don't need me. They could probably do better with different types of personalities or different kinds of trainings or business models, and that's fine. So I look for people who are looking for us or who I really feel like can help us. So
Hmm.
if I see an agent struggling or somebody who I think that would genuinely benefit from our business model and being brought into our family, which is beyond DXP, because we offer a lot more training and resources than just the company does, then I'll reach out and see if they're open-minded to learning about what we have to offer. And and it's oftentimes a fairly long process because sometimes things are going well with a broker an agent's business and they're not really wanting to change at that point in time. So it's about building awareness. Some come right away, and some it might take something that their broker triggers them to be ready to make a move.
Yeah.
But it's about following up and staying in friendship and being a being somebody who adds value to their business and their life.
Yeah. And occasionally, I'm sure you give them a little kick in the butt.
I try to. What I've learned over time is that I think I used to be a little more progressive, and a friend and mentor of mine whose opinion I value very much kind of helped me reframe this. Like, I'm not here to push you off the ledge. I'm here to catch you when you're ready to jump and help you have a
Awesome.
soft landing. So yeah, I try not to be that that jerk.
I know you're enjoying that content, but I just wanted to personally invite you to the Commonwealth Affordable Housing Fund. If you want to passively earn while also building communities, doing philanthropy even, while getting quarterly distributions and even sharing in the exit about 5 years down the line, then please join us. This used to just be for friends and family, but you could join in now. You could be essentially earning through an expert, which is I, running the investment firm Commonwealth. So if you want to be a part of it and also get access to exclusive events where we go to in-progress construction and I show you how your money is being used actively and how the renovation was just complete and how this is going to help change people's lives, how we negotiate an acquisition. So you could be a part of those events throughout the year and also earn passively. So if you want to be a part of that, please click the link below and I'll let you back to your awesome content. Thanks.
Definitely like to make people aware of all we have to offer, and love helping people grow their businesses, and I've helped people do the same thing that I've done,
Mhm.
become financially free and build time freedom and location freedom with the powers of the model.
Yeah. Uh, when it comes to the resources side of other people's resources, when you are like researching contractors, lawyers, insurance agents, you have a system you use to kind of make sure they're right for you.
Well, let's see. One of the nice things about being in this business, going to different networking functions, I go to a realtor breakfast every week, and I go to some other events very frequently that are oftentimes sponsored by great vendors. So I built up a pretty good list of these different vendors, and there's are certain ones that I really like. I mean, there's actually more that I like than I have businesses spread around, but it's nice that over time you get to know them and you build a comfort level with them, or maybe not in a few cases, but you know, you if you need an insurance agent or if you need a lender or anything else like that, I've got people I'm very confident, are going to do a great job for my clients, my referral partners, anybody who needs it. And I can feel very comfortable recommending them and using
Okay,
them myself.
excellent. Moving on to the winning section. So when we think about winning, it's more so approaching what we learned from loss. So what is one thing you learned from a loss that helped you to win today?
One thing I learned from a loss that helped me to win. I think you know, really when you have a loss or fail at something, it's really only a loss or a failure if you fail to learn from it so you can improve and do better. So I look at the losses as learning opportunities and figure out what not to do in the future.
Hmm.
And then it just becomes an iterative approach, just like, okay, don't do that, it's not going to work. And then the more times I learn what doesn't work, that narrows the path to what does work.
Yeah, I dig it. You probably had a little bit of more of the zigzags in those first few years after you left your job. And
Oh, a lot of zigzags.
yeah, so what is one of the losses there, right? You mentioned also the M3, right? Like you traded that in, said or sold that for a Civic. So that was a little bit of a probably, like you said, lifestyle hit. But
Yeah,
what's
at the
the
time it was I had this beautiful M3 I'd paid cash for and everything back when I was working at Dell, and then once I found myself self-employed with no regular income, it was at times about a $40,000 value, with no note attached to it. So I just said, okay, let's just go ahead and sell it, and we're just going to go. Well, I still want to buy something fun, so it was a Civic Si, and with manual, and so I went and found, I think it was like 22,000 dollars, and I
Hmm.
financed pretty close to 100% of it. And so, yeah, it was a big step down, but it was, I just knew that I need to practice deferred gratification and really focus on building the business, getting our finances in order and all that. So
Yeah.
it was a
A lot of
worthy
people
sacrifice.
don't talk about that. Like that's something that, you got to have a real conversation with yourself about that loss. And it's like you said, just temporary. Uh,
Yeah, we have a beautiful home that we'd bought before and everything. And one of the most important things, I did not want to lose our home because
mhm.
stability for the family. My
Yeah.
son thriving in the schools that he was going to, and we'll stay here till he graduates from high school because he's done so well in school and everything, and we don't want to displace him. So it's like, okay, let's focus on keeping the home, and anything else, nothing, or should I say, nothing else is sacred
Yeah.
and all that. We did some really creative financing things too to keep things afloat too.
Yeah.
Thankfully I had a good credit rating, and I had some decent 401k assets that I was able to do some interesting things with. But it all worked out. It just took a couple years of getting traction and building momentum.
Yeah. It makes me think of I had a therapy session last Friday, and this phrase came up like, why does nobody else care about the ship? And especially from my childhood, that was like, I'm the only one that's kind of making sure the family is as glued together as possible, like caring about the ship. Uh, and so that made me think of when you mentioned like everything else except for the home, which is sacred, and the family must stay together. Like that's the sort of approach that needs to definitely happen in your head if you want to get into real estate investing. If you have a
Yeah,
thought of everything is sacred, then nothing is sacred. Everything is going to be at risk if you
yeah,
have
I
a,
think that brings the bigger question, like what's your why for whatever you're doing in life?
yeah,
What's the big number one priority, and focus on that first, and then if you knock that out, everything else will fall in place.
yes, indeed. Good stuff, brother. Moving on to enjoy. How do you enjoy what you've built?
Oh, let's see. Well, I have plenty of fun things to do. So I love mountain biking,
Cool.
and I do that every chance I get, just about, usually once or twice a week at least.
Okay.
And I'm a high performance driving instructor, so I've been doing that for over a dozen years,
Wow.
road courses, and help other people in their sports cars learn to drive faster, safer, smoother,
Hmm.
as well as getting track time in for myself. It's a lot of
Okay.
fun. Um, I have been for most of my adult life like an avid motorcyclist. I haven't had one, probably since like 2016. Moving to Dallas from Austin didn't help in that regard. But anyway, there's this new electric dirt bike called a Stark Vark that just came out, and it's cool as can be. And so I just bought one of those. It's due to be delivered in April. So I can't wait to get back out in the dirt doing that.
Okay.
Play guitar as well too, and I actually look at investing as a hobby too. So I
Wow.
kind of geek out over all sorts of investing and personal finance and all that kind of stuff, even tax strategies. That's, I guess, just a carryover from my finance education.
Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating how investing could be gratifying too. Uh, and in a lot of ways, we're helping people have homes themselves. And so there's definitely fulfillment there too.
Yeah, and I look at just a lot of my business partners and friends. It's like I talk to a lot of them, and try to be helpful as far as I don't want to say necessarily give financial advice, but having conversations around different investing strategies, different investment opportunities, tax strategies, just ways to build, protect, and preserve wealth.
Why would you help them? I don't understand.
it feels good, it's just do unto others as you would like to be done to you. So
Yes, indeed. All right, for the last section, reserve. So there's lots of aspects of reserve. The first one most people think of is financial, because we can't maintain properties if we don't have a good reserve. Uh, there's also emotional, physical, um, happy reserve. What's one reserve you've been working on lately?
it's a good one. I guess, a lot of it, I'll tell you that we talked a little bit earlier about how in the beginning of my investment career, I was using my HELOC to invest, right?
Mhm.
And that was a very easy arbitrage because my rates were like here, my returns were like here.
Right.
Of course, we all know what the Fed's done. It's a floating rate HELOC, and now the spread's like this.
Yeah.
It's even probably negative on a cash and cash basis, but it's still positive on an IRR over the course of the projects.
Mhm.
But I don't feel like I'm adequately compensated for the risk of those projects. So what I've done is I've really focused on paying off that HELOC and any kind of floating rate debt like that, to where I have it now. I'm not paying the interest on it, and also I have a deep reserve of all that money I paid off, and I've built up some other capital reserves
Right.
just to at least to get through all this craziness right now. So a little more reserved in my underwriting as well. Definitely gotten a lot more conservative. We have headwinds in terms of it's a kind of a dysfunctional lending environment in multifamily right now. Insurance rates, especially in coastal communities, along the Gulf Coast, Florida, Texas. Um, you just got to be careful where you are in terms of what your potential exposure is to rising insurance rates. And so just been cautious with that, building capital. And as far as the other reserves, you mentioned emotional or energy reserves. I mean, I'm blessed to have achieved, not just financial freedom, but time freedom and location freedom. So I like to my days are not always like a typical like 9 to 5 or work days. I wake up and I work when I need to work. And if it's beautiful weather like it is, I might go mountain bike ride or walk in the middle of the day
Hmm.
uh, and do what I feel is good for my mental health
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But,
Like you mentioned, you just were out on a walk before we started this. So it's good you're keeping that up. Um, when you were talking about financial, what came up for me was there's the urgency to want to spend money, especially as real estate, right? Commissions, when it comes in, there's an urgency. Oh, I could do this and that with my properties and this and that and get ahead of that and this. And so we could easily, I don't know about you, but especially when I left my job, I didn't quite know, oh, I need to really allot this here and allot there. So I'm not just kind of getting ahead of myself and spending everything as fast as possible. As that one hip hop lyric says, spending money like I never had S. And I think everybody knows what that S curse word is.
yeah, so I it's maybe a product of just both my undergraduate and my MBA were both in finance. And so I've always been very finance focused and everything.
Mhm.
But and there were times earlier in my life when I perhaps bought toys before I should have and everything. But always never too crazy. But now that I've gotten the financial freedom and time freedom and location freedom, it's like that to me is something I cherish more than any kind of material possessions and
Mm,
everything. So I am so driven to protect that, to where I never want to have to worry about money or having to work again. And I like working. I have no plans to retire anytime soon and everything, but I like waking up every day and having the ultimate freedom of choosing exactly what I want to do or what I don't want to do. who I do it with, where I do it with, and so forth.
Right. Yeah, so he just mentioned another aspect of going back to that sacred part. Like anything that poses a risk to his financial freedom, his time freedom, is going to be, if not soon, in a chopping block, on a chopping block fast. I'm guessing you make that sort of decision max within, 2 to 4 weeks if something is really tarnishing your or potentially going to tarnish your ability to be free
I
soon.
mean, those kind of decisions are best made in advance,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. I also think about it from a shorter term, also when it comes to like, for example, hiring somebody new, like a VA,
Yes.
and they're just really underperforming in 2 to 4 weeks. Like that could be a way to be like, okay, this is not working out. Cut it off as fast as possible so the company doesn't lose money on this.
Right. And that's actually something I've been I need to get better at. I know I need to hire a VA, but I just haven't done it yet. I I guess just not great with the thought about delegation, sharing a lot of passwords and all that stuff. It'll come at some point, but just not hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's a big trust thing for sure.
Yeah, thankfully my role is pretty simple. I mean, basically it's attracting real estate agents to my group. So there's really not a lot to outsource except perhaps appointment setting.
Yeah. If it helps you and other people listening, the way I do it is baby steps of trust. Like it could take a long time before I even consider sharing statements or some sort of rent rolls with my assistant. Luckily, I've been with one for like probably a year and a half now, and
Yeah.
I totally trust her now. But also, we're having conversations around dividing and conquering labor too. So it may not be necessary that she work a little bit on accounting anymore, actually. It may be more focusing on tenants now. So lots of factors, like you say, to consider and work through gradually.
Yeah. How many VAs do you have?
That's just one right now. Yeah, it's very lean and mean. I got more contractors than a VA.
Okay, got it.
Yep. Awesome, brother. Well, that wraps up reserve. Any last tidbits you'd like to share for the recording overall?
Well, not that I can think of. I think you did a pretty good job of covering, you know, most aspects of this. Just if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm available on all the socials, major ones, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, easy to find. So not too many people have my same last name.
Yeah, for sure. And are there any things you're working on that you're looking for maybe partners on or projects?
As far as mostly just always looking for real estate agents, good productive ones that want to grow their business and would like to maybe who are seeing some success, but know that they have another year or two in them to
Hmm.
grow. And as far as projects, right now I'm just looking at you know, ones that come my way, but yeah, I'm passive, so I'm contributing to other GPs projects rather than funding and running my own.
Okay, gotcha.
At one point early in my multifamily investing career, I really aspired to become a GP and become a syndicator. And it sounded good at the time, but I got to where I wanted to be financially before that. And now I think like, okay, it's a lot of responsibility for other people's money, a lot of stresses. I've seen all that could go wrong with fires and shootings and other things and at apartment complexes. And it's like, well, that's a whole nother job to commit to. So
Yeah.
I am happy to leave it to people like you and let other people run the projects and everything. And I'll be happy to contribute to passive.
That's a very mature way to look at it. Because a lot of people do think they get into real estate because I'm going to be the head of everything and I'm going to manage everything. And the reality is you don't need to. If you get to a certain point, the returns could, like you say, just have your financial freedom, and you can have other sources like this example, the revenue share do also.
Yeah, there's been a lot, some gurus in the industry that, sell very expensive coaching programs, and they sell as like a get rich quick scheme and everything. And they don't really, I think they kind of sweep a lot of risk under the rugs. I mean, and you can see now out there, if you look at some of the trade rags, there's been some very high profile foreclosures and defaults. These people that
Yeah,
um expanded too fast and didn't put in appropriate guardrails to their underwriting.
yeah,
It's really sad to see the people losing money. So, it is something that it can be very rewarding, but it needs to be taken with great responsibility, and it is a real job.
hmm yeah. So know where you're signing up for, or just decide to invest passively and not have to worry about any of it. Just worry
Yeah,
about
and
the front
yeah,
end.
there's still some worries. I mean, um, not every deal goes as planned and everything.
Yeah,
So, the vast majority have been good, and on the whole, it's been good. But there are a couple of thorns in my side.
yeah. Some things are gonna go wrong. I mean, also like the time is not gonna be taken away from you. Like you wouldn't have to, like for example, my fund will grow eventually to the Midwest, so I'll have to be traveling a little bit for those sorts of properties. And so if you're passive, like you don't have to take away from your time freedom. But yeah, there are risks in general with real estate. Speculative, like with any investment, and no investment is guaranteed. If
Yeah,
somebody says something's guaranteed, you should run away from them as fast as possible.
yeah. I love multifamily investing, but I'd rather travel to go someplace cool to go mountain biking or jeeping than to go visit an apartment complex. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for people like you that run these deals and keep investors' money safe.
Yes, indeed. Um, yeah, and a big part of that is because it fulfills me. So I do affordable housing investing, so that's I'm driven past the money, which is where the real gratification happens, the fulfillment for me. So I'm gonna go and fight for the investors. And so yeah, I appreciate those words of encouragement, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So reach out to him on his social media, Chris Soignier. Did I say that right this time?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll see y'all on the next episode of From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. Have a blessed day.
Okay. Thanks, Ivan. Great
Yes.
talking with you.
Same here.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of From Tech Developer to Real Estate Developer. I hope you got a lot of return on investment for your time today, and I encourage you to share it with other people so that they could also get returns with this valuable education to invest in real estate. We're also sharing this free education because we want to help people learn how to invest so that they could also create more affordable housing units. We have a great goal of creating 2.5 million affordable housing units by 2047, and free education like this is a big part of that. So by you sharing, you are a part of the equation to create those affordable housing units. So I can't wait to see the end of the road that we're going to achieve together. Have an amazing and blessed day.